That's true. Yes, it's a new experience. Oh, I took them out there. Definitely. I like that. Is there a set of prayers?
There is this.
Is that yours?
No, that's yours.
Are you going to be referring to the main text? I need to get my
You mean to the root verses?
the not this name. It's not Geshe. It's
Gets a Damarinchen? I maybe.
I'll just not grab it.
I think
She'll be quick. Yeah.
What else do I want to do? We're doing now prayers to Manjusri, right? The Manjusri guy. Okay. Yeah, we'll start in 2 minutes. In the meantime, let's see if Kathy Victor is online. Yeah, Jason is here. I gave him permission to record. Yeah.
What's the weather like up there?
Hey. Everyone is thunderstorm forecasted. Yeah, you can also do a whiteboard. Although I guess that if you have like an electronic pad, it can come out. Yeah, like for example, I'll show you. Before we start, I'm just gonna do like a silly thing, so I can like draw circles. But the thing is that kind of, yeah. So I think that if you have like a normal pad, I guess that like an electronic pad is probably better. Yeah.
Well, sort of vaguely.
Shall we start with the Manjushri prayer? What do you reckon? Since that, yeah, for some reason it freezes. Anyway, we have recordings, so let's start. I'll put the prayer on the screen.
Obeisance to my Guru and
Protect him and Manjushri. Holds his heart a scriptural text symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose understanding shall fall as who teaches in 60 ways with the patience of all creatures caught in the presence of the sun, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. Bringing us from the iron chains of our karma, whose battles whose that suffering were its trials appear, and by the darkness of all ignorance, which will remind you
who has completed the 10 stages, achieving the highest perfection of Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Manjushri, O loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness in placing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them.
Chudasoki Chonamla, Chanchu Badu Dani Kasuchi, Dagi Chinyagi Betsonangi, Drola Penchi Sange Dropasho, Chodansoki Chonamla, Chanchu Badu Dani Kasuchi, Dagi Chinyagi Betsonangi, Drola Penchi Sange Dropasho, Chodansoki Chonamla, Chanchu Badu Dani Kasuchi, Dagi Chinyagi Betsonangi, Dola Penche Sange Dopa. Right. Let's see, I'm just going to check if Kathy Victor is here. No, but it's okay. Yeah, she was before, but I'm recording. I think that Jason must be recording as well. Yeah, so it's okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I just wanted to say that someone sent me a message this afternoon wanting to thank all the Sangha people and the lay people that take part in the study program, Discovering Buddhism, BSP, other teachings. They said that it keeps them sane at this current time. But also it's good to remember that it's not only the people in front of the camera. There is also kind of a staff of volunteers, people that set up the equipment, people that work at the ground. So thank you everyone for just doing it. So what I wanted to do today is to cover a few points from the last few days. I'm still going to say a couple of stuff about the chart that we've been talking about in the last couple of days, the one that explains the Buddha bodies, because I think that that's like a really crucial information for those of us who are doing more kind of in-depth study. And I think that it is something that once you get your head around it, then you take it on with you to other teachings, and many other things will make sense as a result of that. So Yana, I'll get to your question or comment in a second. Before we get to that, I wanted to say a couple of things. So first of all, Geshe-la referred in the first day to a commentary by a Dzogchen master called Kunpen. I thought it's Kunpen, but actually it's Kunpal. Yeah. I did some digging around, did some research on Google. I haven't found a Tibetan manuscript, and I was too lazy to go up and pick it up from Geshe and photocopy it. I don't know where the photocopy machine is at the moment, if it works and so forth, but it's there. But I found the translation of the text into English, well, at least part of the text. So we have 5 chapters of this text translated to English, and it is an incredible text. So the translation is available to the public for free. So I've downloaded to my computer the translation of the first 5 chapters. And I don't know if we can put it on the Dropbox. I don't know how it works with copyright issues, but since the translator said that people can download it, then I think that we can send a link to his website so that you guys can download this translation. Now it's kind of, for those of you who are quite busy or quite, you're quite happy with the material that you have now, don't worry about it. Those of you who have more time and also can fit in your mind more explanation, I think that it's a really nice translation. So long as it doesn't really keep you confused or makes you more confused, it's all right. So Jampa is saying, there is Enigma commentary by Kunsan Palden in English. Is it a different text? I think that probably it's the same. Kunpal sounds like a contraction of Kunsan Palden. It was one of the students of Patrul Rinpoche. Anyway, it's in the library downstairs. Well, let's check it out.
Is it something about Manjushi's speech?
I don't know. I'll look into it. So anyway, we'll look into it. It's a very nice translation. It's a really nice commentary. So if you guys have time and you want to add something else to your studies, it's a really nice text. So that's my first comment. Now, another thing that I wanted to say just briefly was Geshe said at the beginning of this module, when he looked at the first line in the text, that was the translator's homage, that it indicates the type of teachings that this text belongs to. So the way that it works is when the first waves of translators started to work in order to transfer text from Sanskrit to, thank you, Holly, from Sanskrit to Tibetan language. A few teams have been established for translated teams, and then at some point there was a Dharma king called Chi Ralpachen that has created a certain standard for translation. Now he said that when you translate a text, you want to know to which collection of teachings this text belongs. So the Buddha's teaching can be classified in different ways. So there is the teachings belonging to the 3 wheels of Dharma. Well, altogether there are 84,000 teachings. They belong to the 3 turnings of the wheel, or you can say that they can be also classified as 12 section of excellent teachings, or into the 3 baskets, the 3 pitakas. The 3 pitakas, the 3 baskets, are the basket of Vinaya, the basket of Sutra, and the basket of knowledge or Abhidhamma. These 3 baskets in turn teach the 3 higher training. So the basket of Vinaya teaches the training in ethical discipline. The basket of Sutra teaches concentration. And the basket of wisdom, the basket of Abhidhamma or knowledge teaches wisdom. That's the subject matter, training in wisdom. So altogether, this is how they're classified. So at the beginning of this translation is, before we begin verse 1, it says, homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, right? That was the first line. And this is the Tibetan translator's homage. That line indicates that this text belongs to the Sutra basket. Now the commentary says that although it mainly belongs to the sutra basket, which means that it seems that the understanding that we draw from that is that the main training that is taught by that is the training in concentration. It still says that also it contains teaching of all the other baskets. And I think that probably you have to say that, because we have here training in ethics belonging to the basket of Vinaya. We have the wisdom chapter, which obviously teaches the perfection of wisdom. So that also belongs to that section of the text will probably primarily belong to the Abhidhamma basket, teaching the training in wisdom. So Kathy says, help, I don't have recording. All right, so I'll give Kathy Victor permission to record. Just bear with me for a second. Kathy Victor, all right. Allow record. So altogether, if you want to know, if you come across a certain treatise that belongs to those classics, and there's a line of paying homage at the beginning, if it says homage to omniscience, that's an indication that it belongs to the basket of Vinaya. If the first line is homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it's an indication that it belongs to the Sutra basket. If you have homage to the youthful Manjushri, it's an indication that the text belongs probably mainly to the basket of Abhidhamma, to the basket of knowledge, teaching mainly the wisdom. So that's covering that part of the section, just adding a little bit of knowledge. I think that probably for the sake of mainly studying the mind of enlightenment and the practice of the six perfections, it's not the absolutely most important detail, but it's nice to have. It's nice to have it under your belt so that, for this set of teachings, but also in the future, when you come across other teachings, you can contextualize them in a better way. So let's look briefly at yesterday's, just a second. Okay, let's look briefly at the chart. I promise that maybe this is the last time that we're going to speak about this chart. Some of you might be sick and tired of my charts. So, Buddha Bodhis. What I wanted to add to our discussion today is the accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom, the two accumulations. We speak about them quite often, right? So this is a sutra presentation. It is not a tantric presentation. From the point of view of sutra, the accumulation of merit is the main contributor to the form body of Buddha. In the more technical language, it is said that it places those footprints for attaining the form body of Buddha. Right? The collection of merit is the main thing that contributes to the form body. Now, the accumulation of exalted wisdom, exalted knowledge, is the main contributor to the Dhammakaya. And the main thing that contributes to the accumulation of exalted wisdom, exalted knowledge, is a perceptual realization of emptiness. Of course, there are other things that will also contribute to the accumulation of exalted wisdom. I think that probably you could say also a conceptual realization of emptiness would contribute to that, maybe even correct assumption. Other types of wisdoms that we generate, I assume that they also contribute to the accumulation of wisdom, but by and large, primarily, it is a perceptual realization of emptiness. So the accumulation of wisdom, exalted knowledge, would contribute mainly to the Dhammakaya. The accumulation of merit will contribute mainly to the Rupakaya. So that's the first detail that I wanted to add today to this chart. The second detail that I wanted to add to this chart is the way that the bodies are enumerated. So altogether, I'll put it again, the chart on the screen. Altogether, when you look at this, I think, chart, there are quite a lot of details in it. So the Buddha bodies are mentioned in different teachings as the two Buddha bodies, the three Buddha bodies, the four Buddha bodies, or the five Buddha bodies. So there are different ways of enumerating what you have here on the chart. So when we speak about the two bodies of Buddha, there are the form body and the Dhamma body, right? It's Rupakaya and Dhammakaya. These are the two bodies. When you hear in teaching a reference to the three bodies of Buddha, then it is the Dhammakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nimanakaya. When you hear about the four bodies of Buddha, it is the Essence Kaya, Exalted Knowledge Dhammakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nimanakaya. And when you hear about the five bodies of Buddha, then it is adventitious purity, that is one aspect of Essence Kaya, natural purity, that is the second aspect of Essence Kaya, the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nimanakaya. So you see, so you hear about those different enumerations, two bodies of Buddha, 3, 4, or 5. There are different ways of accounting for this division of the bodies of Buddha. All right. So let's look at Yana's message. She says, Sambhogakaya is only seen by Arya beings. Is it that the Nimanakaya, which is also a part of the form Rupakaya, is visible to ordinary beings as a form, meaning a bridge, but invisible as being a Buddha? Sambhogakaya is only seen by Arya beings. Is it that the Nimanakaya, which is also a part of the form body, Rupakaya, is visible to ordinary being as form, meaning bridge? So it's just like doubling up. Okay, so first of all, the Sambhogakaya is seen indeed by Arya beings, but not all Arya beings. Here Zensority realizes Aryas or Arhats do not see the Sambhogakaya. The Sambhogakaya is seen only by Arya Bodhisattvas. Not only that, it is said that the Sambhogakaya exists only in Akanishta. Do you remember yesterday we mentioned those 5 certainties? So I'm wondering, is it possible for Arya Bodhisattvas to be in another realm, not in Akanishta, doing some stuff for other sentient beings, and in this form they don't see the Sambhogakaya? I mean, it's quite weird when you think of how, it's quite confusing when you think of Arya Bodhisattvas working for the sake of others. They have a tender mental body because they're Arya Bodhisattvas. They have a body in the nature of mind. They can send forth different emanations, right? So they could have one emanation at Akanishta receiving teachings from Sambhogakaya, and at the same time also having other emanations in different realms working for the sake of others. So are those other forms of Arya Bodhisattvas working for the sake of others in other realms, are they not aware of the Sambhogakaya? Do they still see the Sambhogakaya in Akanishta or not? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But no, those are questions that you can bring up. Now, probably if you're really keen, you can take it up in debate with the Geshe, just in order to get some clarification about it. Now, with respect to the Nimanakaya, the different forms of Nimanakaya. Like, for example, there is the form of Nimanakaya that has performed, that performs the 10 deeds of Buddha. There is birth Nimanakaya. It is said in some sections of teachings that you can come across those forms of Buddha. So you see a person, but you don't see them as Buddha because, or not as a supreme Nimanakaya, or maybe not as birth Nimanakaya. You see them just as an ordinary person because you don't have pure karma. When your karma is pure, or when you have purified a certain portion of karma, you will come to see them as Buddhas. So it seems that some Buddha Nimanakayas are seen as Buddhas by ordinary beings, and some Buddha Nimanakayas are not seen as Buddhas by ordinary beings. It depends upon how much karma you have purified. Any questions? All right. If you guys at home don't have any question, we can maybe continue. Okay, let's continue. So that's what I wanted to add today with respect to the bodies of Buddha. Now, by the way, as we go along, I added home some review questions. I will add also some questions from today's sessions, and we will send it to you guys this afternoon or maybe this weekend so that you can review the material at home. We might have a quiz or an exam at the end of next week. I haven't decided yet. A couple of people said that they prefer it to be every fortnight. I just need to psych myself up to this. So I'll decide this weekend. Okay. Another question I saw that came up today was with respect to the meaning of rhetoric. Yeah. So when Geshe was speaking about the way of benefiting others, it came up in relation to the section where Shantideva says that I have no skills in composition, prosody, and so forth. But in order to, nor do I do it for the sake of others, I do it in order to acquaint my mind with it. So Shantideva is saying that I do it in order to acquaint my mind with the mind of enlightenment, with the practice of the six perfections. But as we said, it's not that Shantideva doesn't aim at benefiting others. Actually, of course, he's aiming at benefiting others. He's taking a humble position here. So the three ways of benefiting others could be through teaching or explaining. That's what I said in Geshe-la's session, right? Explaining. You can also translate that word as teaching. So you can benefit others through teachings. The second word I translate is rhetorics, but you can also say through debating, right? So you can benefit others through debating. I think that probably the benefit that others will get from the debate is that when you question their views, when you give rise to doubts in their mind and help them to come down on a certain conclusion and thereby generating correct assumptions or generating realizations of a certain point, you're benefiting others. But that is to say you're benefiting them. I mean, you could say in that particular lifetime, of course, if they generate realizations, hopefully those realizations will be carried with them to future lives and so forth. But as Geshe said, if you want to leave something that we would call in English a legacy, in which, just like Shantideva, for example, an 8th century scholar, we're still, 13 centuries after that, we still enjoy Shantideva's presentation. Then you do it through composing a text. How amazing it is. When you think about not only the Tibetan tradition, but also the Chinese tradition, people in Mongolia, how many probably hundreds of thousands of millions of people have been benefited by Shantideva's presentation. It's totally mind-blowing, isn't it? How many people, we have no idea, but how many people became Bodhisattva, and depends upon that text. How many people generated a realization of emptiness based on that text? How many people have become Buddhas and depends upon this text? It's probably quite a few. It's pretty mind-blowing. So I think that this is probably what Geshe-la was referring to. So so in relation to this pledge to compose, since I mentioned Khenpo Kunpa's commentary, and I did find it online and I did download it to my computer, I read through it yesterday and today, some parts of it, of course, not all of it, some parts of it. And some of it was really nice. So I thought of sharing with you guys on the screen some of the points that I read. So let's look at the pledge to compose the text. But before we do that, the pledge to compose the text, it says, there is nothing here that is not, in verse 2, there is nothing here that is not appeared in the past, and I have no skill in the act of rhetoric. In the act of rhetoric, meanings in composition, writing things in a poetic way, writing things in a certain meter. So Tibetan language and Sanskrit language has a particular rhythm, particular meter. We know we don't have it in English, but Shantideva is saying that it doesn't have skills in doing that, but obviously it does. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you look at the Sanskrit version and then the Tibetan version. Now, these two languages belong to completely different language groups. Tibetan language belongs to the Chinese language groups. It is together with the same subgroup as Burmese, and Sanskrit belongs to the Hindu-European language group. So they belong to completely different language groups, and yet both the Sanskrit and the Tibetan have a particular meter. They have a particular syllable count, a certain syllable count to each line. So it's quite nice. Now, we don't have it in English, and Shantideva says that he's not skilled in doing that, but obviously he is. Anyway, therefore, not to enact the welfare of others, I compose this in order to acquaint it to my mind. So let's look at Khenpo Kumpel's translation, the thing that I wanted to pull out. So this section I thought is really nice. So if you wonder, why does Shantideva compose this text? And one might think all the precious baskets of the immaculate teachings spoken by the victor, the Buddha, which were retained in the endless knot within the heart of the perfect Buddha, and which overflowed from the vase of his throat, and which he displayed on the lotus of his tongue, and which issued forth from between his conch shells, teeth, still remain undiminished in this world. Consequently, they need not to be repeated again by composing this treatise. I thought it's just kind of a really nice way of alluding or speaking about the teachings of the Buddha and the way that the Buddha taught. So someone might say that, why did Shantideva teach that if the Buddha already gave teachings? Well, no, we say that the answer is that this is not a repetition. Shantideva did it in order to acquaint his mind with it, but also he says that later on, for due to acquaintance with virtue, the force of my faith will, for the time being, increase because of that. If, however, this is seen by others equal in fortune to myself, it will be meaningful. So he says that he makes a pledge to compose the text. He also takes a humble position, saying that I didn't do it in thinking of benefiting others. I did it in order to acquaint my mind with the teachings. However, if some find benefit in doing that, then they can use that, may be of benefit to them. So Geshe said in his class, in his session, that taking this humble position is an illustration of how you make sure that you do not give rise to pride. Normally we say that pride is that which prevents us from developing good qualities. I mean, it's quite interesting because I've been working here in Australia, and I've also worked a few times in Israel, and I think that different people have different different character traits, a different approach to things. Sometimes I think that maybe it's more in Israel, I'm not sure, but you speak about a certain point, like for example, emptiness or selflessness and so forth, and you find people that say, yeah, I got it. No, yeah, I understand it. And sometimes I think that, well, it's nice that they understand it. Maybe they do, but although I might be speaking about it or translating about it, I would certainly not claim that I have understood it all. And it seems that when you have this attitude of saying that I've got it, I know it, I understand it, it's something that prevents you from inquiring, from looking into it, from raising doubts with respect to it, and seeing whether there is a broader context to what you think that you've understood. So, for example, we say, in relation to the view, we say something does not inherently exist because it depends upon causes and conditions, right? So, do you understand that? If I say this mug does not inherently exist because it depends upon cause and conditions. Do you understand that?
Can I ask you
Sorry?
something? Can I ask you something, Venerable Carton?
Yes.
You will probably fall off your little chair.
All right.
I've been practicing for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And I stayed at Chenrezig,
Yes.
which I love.
Mm.
And I am becoming meaner and meaner.
Just a second, let me fall off my chair.
No, wait for it.
Okay.
Yesterday, yesterday, my mum's dying of cancer. Well, she's probably going to outlive me. But anyway,
sorry to hear.
And she's been quite mean to me my whole life and unaccepted. Like, she'll come to Sydney, she won't see me, she won't see my kids, but she'll go and see my cousins. So she's clearly saying, you know, you're not a part, I don't really care. So I said to my dad, I said, she's dead to me. And then I thought, oh, that's awful. But I actually mean it in a way. I actually mean the hurt that I've felt and the abandonment. It feels like she's already gone and I couldn't care less. And but I also woke up feeling like, no, that's no good. So I guess my question is, A, I know I've got a lot of work to do, but B, how do I do it? And why aren't I nicer by now?
Well, first of all, thank you for your question. I think that no, it's a big question because I think that it relates to so many things that we can bring into our personal practice and reflection. I mean, to begin with, when you look at it from when you look at how such a state of mind, I think, influences your mind, you know, you kind of, normally we're so oriented outwardly in thinking that, for example, my mom hasn't been good to me, or now she's being horrible to me, or that person is not helping me out, or they harm me. But then, you know, when we look at how the states of mind actually influence our own mind, is it a happy or is it a comfortable state of mind to be? I mean, if you had a rational choice in thinking, do I want to be, for example, resentful to my mother because she's been horrible to me, or can I still care for my mother even though she's horrible to me? Can I have a sense of consideration for her even though she's horrible to me?
I thought I did, and then I exploded.
Just a second, kind of before we have this discussion, I just finished the different points that I wanted to make. So first of all, we want to ask: is it a comfortable state of mind for me to be in? You know, if I had a choice to choose what state of mind is healthy to myself, what state of mind makes me happy? No, a state of resentment or kind of not caring about someone, I think that it's not a pleasant state of mind. But unfortunately, we don't have the rational choice of saying that I will now not resent my mother, I will now care for my mother. You know, those things are so ingrained with our ways of thinking. We're so used to think about other people in such a way that just kind of recognizing that those states of mind are really not healthy for our own mental well-being.
I didn't feel good.
Yeah, but we begin. No, we start with recognizing what states of mind make us happy, what makes states of mind contribute to our mental well-being, and what state of mind do not. You know, once you start to recognize that some states of mind are not happy states of mind, they do not contribute to your mental well-being, then you can think that I will at least try to change it. Now, there are different things that you might try out, but obviously they're not going to work straight away. You know, sometimes
what a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, but sometimes they don't work straight away. It takes years to do that. You know, there is someone here at the center, you know, or she used to be here in the center, like many years ago, and we were working together for a few years, and at some point we had a falling out, and we ended up screaming at each other for 4 days.
Oh yeah, I
You know,
know that.
it was full of hatred. Then over the years, I've been trying to overcome that, to change my mind, because whenever I think about it, about the person, there is that uncomfortable feeling that arises.
Yes.
So is there a point in holding on to it if it causes me that displeasure? There's no point. So I try, as much as I can to change my mind in relation to that, and it works bit by bit, but it takes a lot of time. But it takes a lot of time, and you still recognize that it's not a state of mind that I want to have. It's not a healthy state of mind. That's
No.
one. Another thing is that when growing up with I grew up in Israel. I had my own parents. They had their own issues. You grow up, you become a teenager, then an adult. Not always you see eye to eye with your parents, and then then I started to think that I'm completely independent from them. Whatever they say, it doesn't really matter. I don't really care. I became a bit distant from my parents. But then my close friends started to have kids. My brothers and sisters started to have babies. They're still having babies. They multiply. Anyway, but when I started to see how my close friends, have their firstborn baby, and how much love and care there was in the upbringing of, a few days old baby and a few months old baby. And now when I look at my sister and brothers and close friends, I see that actually it seems that the whole life now, when the children are small, are totally oriented towards caring for the kids. And my parents were once upon a time like that. They're not like that now, but they were like that, even to the point, certainly to the point where I can't remember it. I don't remember how my mother was kind to me when I was a few months old or a few days old, but she was definitely like that. So
my mum was kind, and then it went, I had kids young, and she said, you made your bed, you lie in it. And oh my God, have I. And not only that, she won't acknowledge my kids, and yet she's, close with my sister and my cousins, who was her sister who died. And when the sister was alive, they hated each other. They used to choke each other once a month. But now they're dead, my mum's glommed on to the cousins. So I remember my mum kind, and then like me, she got worse. she got worse. But she's very happy with her life without me in it. Very happy.
Well, I think that Nikki, just to we can speak about it later on, kind of.
No, I hear you.
Maybe we can. No, because I think that also all the other people hear you. So, but I think that first of all, even if she, even though she doesn't necessarily want to have, a close relationship with you, it's her own choice. It might be unfortunate, but when we still want to wish people well, we still want to wish people well. First of all, because it helps our own mental well-being.
Yeah.
When we wish people well, it affects our own mental well-being. But also, when you think about it in the great scheme of things, if you're keen on attaining the state of liberation, and even more than that, the state of enlightenment, you cannot exclude anyone. Even those who currently are being not nice to you, unpleasant to you, even those that you dislike, those that harm you. It's like our job to develop that great sense of care for them. Otherwise, there's no way that, if we exclude even a single sentient beings, there's no way that we'd be able to become Buddha. So it's hard. It's difficult. It's not going to happen overnight, but at least this is the path that we want to follow.
Yeah, thank you so much, Venerable, because I felt good in saying it. I was like, yeah, well, she's dead to me, she's no good. And that's it. And then I felt really sick in my stomach when I woke up and thought, this is not peaceful to live with this thought.
And you know, and another thing, Nikki, just to kind of wrap it up, another thing is sometimes when I think that it happens to many of us, that we think that over the years when we practice Dharma, it seems that we're going from bad to worse. Rather than improving, we're going from bad to worse.
Yeah.
I think that often it is the time that we just, before we haven't recognized our own shortcomings. You know, we're totally oriented outwardly in finding faults in others, but then the Dhamma encourages us to look inwardly and to look at our own faults. So for the time being, it seems that actually before I was a nicer person, you know, before I was more accepting of others, but sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes it's just that we now all of a sudden recognize how shitty our mind is. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no, that's my
How
mind.
bad our mind is. So that recognition might make it seem as if we are actually going bad, but maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries.
Because I think it's like you said, even selfishly, it's more about us. I don't want to get up and feel sick every day, every time I think of her, because I've wished her bad, you know, and that's about me.
Yeah. So,
you know?
Yeah.
And I've got a list of people, don't worry. She's just one of them.
Okay. You know, if you have any, you know, if you want to talk about it later on, we can continue with that. But maybe let's go back to.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Nikki.
I try. Not
Try
easy.
hard. Try harder. All right. So. All right. So another thing that I wanted to mention. With respect to, no, we were speaking about pride, you know, pride being the thing that prevents us from developing good qualities. And I was speaking about this kind of thing that when we think that I already know it, it prevents us from inquiring further on. So, you know, I mentioned those kind of, you know, normally this argument, things do not exist inherently because they depend upon cause and conditions. So when I ask you guys, and also the guys at home, do you understand that? I think that we understand that to a certain degree. But if we think that now I got how things do not inherently exist because they depend upon cause and conditions, we just got a partial knowledge here. There is so much more to emptiness of inherent existence than just the argument of because it depends upon cause and conditions. If we understand that, just that, we haven't understood yet the emptiness of inherent existence. We have to get at the very subtle level of dependency, how things depend upon the mind imputing them. Things are imputed outwardly, merely imputed outwardly. There's nothing that is coming from the side of the object. Without that realization, there's no way that we can realize emptiness. So this kind of attitude, the thing that thinks that I got it, sometimes is involved with pride that prevents us from inquiring further on. So as Geshe said today in his class, it is like, you know, if you have a bowl of pride and you sprinkle water onto it, the water will not stay, will not accumulate, it will just wash away. So when Geshe mentioned that, it's actually found in Khenpo Kumpel's commentary, and he adds to that, he not only speaks about pride, he also speaks about being a lack of self-confidence. He says that on one hand, we can have pride that prevents us from developing qualities, but on the other hand, also a lack of confidence will cause us to not develop qualities. Actually, maybe I'll pull out this part of the commentary because I think that this is a really nice personal advice for all of us. Where is it? Just a second. Page 29. All right, so let's look at section 119, 191, and 192. It says, Shantideva adopts a posture of humility by saying, still, if by chance others, similar types, equal in fortune to myself, who live their lives ardent for and straightforward in the conduct of the Bodhisattvas, view these compositions of Charya Avatara, which means engaging in the deeds of bodhisattvas, it is possible that some benefit might ensue, because such persons may enter with happiness and joy into the conduct of a bodhisattva. So the reason for this is as follows. If one feels downtrodden due to an overly timid mind, one is not an appropriate vessel for giving rise to qualities. Therefore, one should be uplifted through generating a joyous state of mind. And then it says, if one's mind is either overly elated due to pride or overly depressed in the face of timidity, this condition can cause obstacles to the development of special qualities within one's mind stream, as is illustrated in the story from the Pitaputra that recounts how the Bhagavan established his father, King Shuddhana, in the truth of the Dharma. So anyway, the point that I wanted to pull out from this section is that often we speak of how pride is the thing that prevents us from developing good qualities. But also this commentary points out that it's not only pride, but also a lack of self-confidence in ourselves. You know, here we can speak about depression, but I think, or timidity, but I think that it's mostly a lack of self-confidence, thinking that we're not worthy or we are not capable and so forth. So when we approached that section of teaching, similar sections of teachings before, when we studied with Geshe Jamyang, he said a few times that we shouldn't have pride, but we should have self-confidence. You know, pride and self-confidence are different in that pride is oriented, in some sense, you can say that it is oriented toward others, and it makes you think as if you're better than others. And self-confidence is recognizing your own good qualities. So you can say that it is oriented more inwardly. Of course, you have to be totally in sync with your own good qualities, not think that you have qualities that you don't have, but recognize that, for example, that you have the power to benefit others in certain ways. You know, if you have some knowledge, you can share it with others. Geshe Jamyang also before gave really nice advice to people that we hear teaching in the study program. And I think that I found it at least really helpful for me. He said that when you teach and when you explain to others, if there's a point that you're not sure or you do not know, just say it outwardly. You know, say, I don't know. And then you don't have to pretend. You know, it makes it so much easier. Your heart or mind is so relaxed. You don't have to create that display and keep up as if you know it all. If you just admit that I don't know, things will flow, things will continue in an easy way. You know, so be sure about your capability, but also don't be too proud, because both of those ends, being too timid or lack of self-confidence, being too proud, both of them are obstacles for developing good qualities. So, any questions? Graham? Can
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. Hi, Carson. I was just thinking that a lot of this, the pride, which you were just talking about, the pride, I agree with you that stems largely from people not being sure and trying to hide their insecurities. But I think also there's a problem where people have a fixed view of whether it's reality or whether it's views about politics or anything else. They have these fixed, straitjacketed views, and they will always hold strong to those fixed views, even though they won't listen to anyone else's reasoning or arguments. And I think largely that's one of our biggest problems for all of us, is that we tend to have these straitjacketed views, whether it's what we sometimes call culture or experience, and we won't listen to anyone else really. We're just listening to ourselves, our own mind, rather than listening to valid arguments and sort of saying, oh yeah, that you might have a point there. I'm not sure. And you can have a valid discussion, but if you just have this fixed position all the time, then you're not really learning. You really need to be able to at least modify your view and listen to other people's arguments. And I think that's one of the big problems with the world today in our society, is that people are on the left or the right or the middle or somewhere, and they refuse to listen to arguments from other sides. And anyway, it's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, it's we have it in ourselves, I think, some fixed views, and sometimes you encounter others with fixed views. I think that what we one great thing about the system that Tibetan Buddhism works with is always doubting a certain position. And it's almost like you condition your mind to question everything that you're told or everything that you think. Of course, it is completely up to you to use those tools. You know, sometimes you encounter someone that is so solid in their views, and it doesn't matter what you say, they're not going to change their mind. You know, I am like that sometimes. You know, I tend to be quite rigid.
Well, I think we all are. And I think the Buddha was always saying, don't believe just from me what I say, test it out for yourself and think about it, and, rationalize. And of course, he always agreed with the idea that Buddhism should change from society to society and through time. And of course it has. Like, you've got the Chinese versions, the Japanese versions, you've got the West, or there's a lot of different Western versions and so on. So there's lots of different versions of Buddhism out there. Just because they're different in some ways doesn't mean that they're wrong in any particular way. As long as, the goal is obviously to reach enlightenment, or to improve, at the least part is to improve people and sentient beings and their lives. So if that is happening, then there is success, at least on some level. And I think that's a good thing.
Well, when you look at your own mind, I think that, first of all, you need to look at your own mind. You need to look at whether, to what extent your mind is rigid. I mean, not particularly you, Graham. I think that kind of all of us need to know to what extent our mind is rigid, in the sense that it will not budge, it will not move. Because I think that all of us are stuck in different ways. But also, I think that, sometimes when I look at my friends, Buddhists or non-Buddhists, some also have fixed views, and I recognize that in certain areas it doesn't matter what I say. It's not going to be listened to. So you just have to kind of see where you put, where you spend your energy on. If there's something, if you're banging your head against the wall.
I agree. It's no point in arguing against a brick wall. You're not going to get anywhere, really.
All right. So thank you very much for Graham. There's one more point that I wanted to cover today, or at least to start and just go over that briefly. So if you don't have other questions, I'll go to the next point, which is in verse number 4. All right. So verse number 4 begins the actual text. Up until verse 1, 2, and 3. If you look at the outline, and put the outline on the screen. All right, if we look at the outline, we have, first of all, the act of introducing the explanation of stages of the Mahayana path with an expression of worship, a pledge to explain, expressing humility, and how Shantideva was inspired to compose. So this is like an introduction. And then the actual explanation of the stages of the path begin with verse 4. It's actually quite interesting, because verse 4 gives us this encouragement to take the essence of this basis of leisure and endowment. So in verse 4, we think of freedoms and opportunities, or this basis of leisure and endowments. And then the rest of the text comes from verse 5 onwards, comes under the section of an explanation of how to take the essence of this basis of leisure and endowments. So in this particular treatise, the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, if we ask, how do you take the essence of this basis of leisure and endowments? It is through developing bodhicitta and practicing the 6 perfections in order to attain the underlying or the essential purpose of becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So it's slightly different to the presentation of the steps of the path to enlightenment, the Lamrim tradition. It's not vastly different, of course. It is still, I think, can be brought together, but when you look at the Lamrim presentation, we meditate on freedoms and opportunities. How, first of all, we identify freedoms and opportunities. We recognize how they are of great advantage. We recognize how difficult it is to find freedoms and opportunities and how easily they are lost. And then we think, therefore, I need to make the most out of my freedoms and opportunities. So how do I do that? I train in the steps of the path of practitioners from the three scopes. So first of all, I train my mind in the steps of the path common to those of the small scope, then train my mind in the steps of the path common with the medium scope, and then train my mind in the steps of the path of those of the great scope. So all of this seem to be contracted here in Shantideva's text. It doesn't explain the steps of the path like that. It says to make the most out of this, out of our lifetime, we go straight to the great scope. We train our mind, we extract the essence of this life, of freedoms and opportunities, with training our mind in bodhicitta and the 6 perfections in order to attain the essential goal, essential purpose, which is the state of enlightenment for the sake of others. So let's look again at the outline. So encouraging the reader to take the essence of the basis of leisures and endowments, and then explaining how to take the essence. Now, actually, I wanted to ask you guys, and I think that already gave the answer, but verse 4 says, the leisures and endowments are very hard to find, since they accomplish the purpose of beings. If I do not accomplish benefit upon this, how will I acquire this in the future? What are the 4-point outline in meditating on freedoms and opportunities? I already gave it in my brief introduction, but what are they, just so that we'll nail them down? If you guys at home remember, or if you guys here remember, 4 main points that we meditate on when we meditate on freedoms and opportunities, leisures and endowments. Don't hold back. Yeah. All right. Perfect. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah. Perfect human rebirth, someone said. So just, by the way, just before we
Dharma
continue,
exists for us. We're in a time when there is Dharma.
just a second, Graham, just a second.
Sorry.
Just a second. So just to, before we continue with that, I just wanted to say something about the terms that we're using. So in English, we're speaking about a precious human life or precious human rebirth. In Tibetan, interestingly, the term that is used is a precious human body. So this body that we have, this thing now, comes with freedoms and opportunities. So we call it a precious human life. We can call it a precious human rebirth, but really we're speaking about how we have this body. It is a basis, certain basis for freedoms and opportunities. So there's a four main points in a meditation on a precious human body with freedoms and opportunities. So I see that some people type some stuff like Dhamma is present, not barbarian country, free hell, perfect human rebirth. There are parts of the meditation, but I'm looking for the backbone of this meditation, the outline. There are 4 main points to the meditation. All right, so I'll just say that because the time is short. Maggie, did you have something in mind? Well, you can also, it's not of what you say has to be absolutely correct. Sometimes the mind is muddled, and yeah, I think yeah, the cockatoo is trying to answer the question. I think that sometimes when I think that one positive thing to be faced with questions like that is that once you find yourself with that sense of insecurity in which you're not sure about what answer to give, then you hold on to the answer. You know, it's like pushing you to get some clarity with respect to that. So the 4 main points are, first of all, the first point is identifying our freedoms and opportunities. So we have 8 freedoms, 10 opportunities, or in other words, 8 leisures, 10 endowments. So recognizing what they are, and some of you have tapped it on a chat box, so that's very good, thank you. We'll speak about it maybe next week, but 8 freedoms, 10 opportunities, identifying them, that's the main point. That's the first main point. The second main point is recognizing how they are of great advantage. They're very meaningful. That's the second point. The third point is understanding how difficult it is to obtain freedoms and opportunities. And the fourth point in our meditation is recognizing how easy it is to lose our freedoms and opportunities. This is the meditation outline for a precious human body. So we will still maybe mention it in our next week's session, but if you guys have time at home this weekend, then you can open the Lamrim text, like Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chemo. It has a really nice meditation on a precious human rebirth. But we'll mention that also maybe next week.
I knew that, Yaki. I knew that.
That's very good.
Verse 5 talks about that, doesn't it? I think.
Sorry?
Verse 5 talks about what you were just saying there, I think, on the next page in my book, in very poetic terms. Yeah, that if even a Buddha has trouble, what sort of trouble are we going to have?
Well, verse 4 says this leisure and endowments are very hard to find. So it identifies the third main point in our meditation outline. It also refers to the first one, identifying what they are. You know, although it doesn't say what they are, it still refers to them, since they accomplish the purpose of beings. If I do not accomplish benefit upon this, how will I acquire this in the future? So in some sense, you can say that it condenses all of the points in verse 4, but you can also say, let's look at verse 5, just as a flash of lightning brightly illuminates for an instant with the clouds on a dark night. Likewise, in this world, through the might of the Buddha, merit and intelligence occasionally occur for once. Yeah, you can probably say that it's also related to it, but still I think that the main meditation outline is covered by verse 4. Anyway, so we'll leave the session here for now. Thank you very much for everyone who participated. So enjoy the weekend.
Yep, you too.
Thank you,
Thank you
Katzen.
very much.
Thanks, Katzen.
Thank you.
Thank you. But before we finish, we'll go to
Katzen.
dedication prayers for this.
Of course.
For this session. All right. Nyodo da lama sangye drubune do achikyama lupa de salago pasho chusen chorin poch kepana kegu kepanya pame gone gondo kawash koe shinkande pendan dewa malo joen chenresi wanten zinga soy chapesi te bado tengyu chi Janshi Jangun Yagwe Yenzi Yong Mogo Ele Mogo Pada Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
A great weekend, everyone.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Council, those 4 points are the basic results.